Hello everybody, Tyrone TG3 here. So, if you haven't watched part 1 already, go watch it. So, with Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi project, because it hasn't an official name yet, but most people are calling it Budokai Tenkaichi 4, a lot of people are wondering, what characters are going to be in the game? And even they, Bandai Namco, state that they take a lot of pride in the Budokai Tenkaichi series being the series that has a large character roster, well over 100. And I want to point out that I was actually right when I said about 160, because Budokai Tenkaichi 3, I believe, with characters that have transformations, if you count all of that, had a roster of about 161, so I pretty much nailed that. And that was off the top of my head. But with Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi having a large roster, I named a lot of characters in my last video on which ones that I think should show up in the game based on characters that are in the series. That means Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, all of those were included. Now, I'm making a video on characters that I believe should be in the game that are out of series. Dragon Ball has moved quite a bit since the last Budokai Tenkaichi game. We've gotten so many other different types of video games since then, and we've had Dragon Ball Z games on the side before, but now we're starting to be a bit more explorative about which characters will wind up showing up exclusively for Dragon Ball video games. Like, for example, in Raging Blast 2, Hatchak was introduced. Now, Hatchak, for those of y'all who don't know, was actually in a Palladius special, which was also a video game known as Dragon Ball Z Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans. That special then was taken, condensed, with most of the plot taken out, and obviously the gameplay, because it was a video game at first, and then was shoved on Raging Blast as a 30-minute OVA special. But in that OVA special, once you watched all of it, you were awarded with the playable character Hatchak, who is basically made by the Tuffles in order to exact revenge on the Saiyans. So, Hatchak is a playable character now in all the sense. But he was a video game character at first. Now, the reason I believe Hatchak got most of a pass here is because Hatchak, while he was on a video game, a Palladius OVA video game type situation, which I actually did the review of, by the way, so you can definitely go watch that on this channel. I believe that Hatchak was that way only because his video game mostly played out with a lot of scenes that looked very much like what you would see in a movie or a TV special. And the villain was very defined, plus the Tuffles were a reoccurring villain that happens in the world of Dragon Ball a lot. Mostly non-canon stuff, but it does appear enough times to where the Tuffles have pretty much made a staple in the world of Dragon Ball. But going into other things, characters that are out of series. This means they aren't even in Dragon Ball GT, they're not in Dragon Ball Z, they're not in Dragon Ball Kai, they're not in Dragon Ball Super. These are characters that will make an appearance in the game, or at least I want to make an appearance in the game, however they made their origins from other games. I try my best not to put too many characters from those other games, and excuse me because there's a lot of these games that I really don't know. I'm mostly familiar with Budokai Tenkaichi, the Infinite World series, the Budokai series, Burst Limit, and Raging Blast respectfully, and Dragon Ball FighterZ, as well as a couple of other games outside like Ultimate Tenkaichi, Xenoverse, and Battle of Z. But outside of that, I know they've made several other video games and media that introduce these very interesting characters, so I apologize if I missed some very important characters that you all probably wanted. Like, for example, I know in Dragon Ball Heroes there is a male and female Saiyan that are main characters that have been throughout the entirety of Dragon Ball Heroes that I'm sure a lot of people want to be in the game. I'm sure, what's his name? Shallot from Dragon Ball Legends is a very noticeable character, and I believe he has a brother, if I'm not mistaken. I apologize. I don't play a lot of Dragon Ball Legends at all. I don't know much about Shallot, so I apologize. I left him out for the most part. I believe Shallot should mostly stick to the mobile games like Dokkan Battle and Dragon Ball Legends. I think that should be fine. I don't know, maybe if you were to possibly put him in, I'd say probably DLC if there was a code or something. I really don't know, and I apologize. But to move on to the list, the first character that I had that would be good for being in the game, even though she was in a different game, technically she's been in 2 games by this point, Xenoverse and Fighters, it's obvious, Android 21. I believe Android 21 has become a very staple character now in the video game world of Dragon Ball, so I think she'd be a really good character to explore. Android 21, this would actually be one of the times we actually did to see her be in her lab coat, but be able to transform into her Majin form, or whatever you want to call it. It would be like a transformation sequence. Where, yeah, because that's one of the things that Tenkaichi also takes pride in, is the fact that characters can transform in the middle of the battle, which is something we haven't seen in a Dragon Ball game in a while. So I think it'd be really cool to see like her show up, and then like if you press the button, she can like have a little cupcake in her hand or something, and then once she takes a bite, you can see like her skin turn pink or something, or you see like all this like pink aura flow from her body, and then flash, and then you get to see her turn into her Majin form. I think that'd be really cool. As far as movesets go, it'd be very obvious. She'd have like the chocolate beam technique, or in this case, I hope it's called something else, because a lot of people really think, oh, Android 21 just turns people into candy, right? No, she turns people into pastries. That's her deal. Her whole deal is that she changes things into pastries. Majin Buu changes things into chocolate. Super Buu turns things into dark chocolate and bitter candies. And I really like that difference. Kid Buu turns things into chaotic candies like jawbreakers and crap. So I hope they put those differences in. But yeah, they would put that. I believe she would also have the, I would like to see her have the ability to copy somebody's super. Like one of her Blast 1 moves, if she uses a super move, just a regular super move, which would be our Blast 2 move obviously, it would probably be just her launching like a large energy, a pink energy blast. But if she uses the Blast 1 super in order to change it, then she has the ability to change to a super move that her opponent knows. Within reason. There's some she just can't copy, right? But for the most part, she can copy like a lot of other moves. She can't I would say she can't copy moves that have like, say, for example, a cutscene in them that's very character specific. But she can copy like the high-speed rush technique, or she can't copy the super energy volley, or an energy ball, or an energy beam. She can copy those, right? I think that would be kind of cool to have her have the ability to copy some moves, just like in Dragon Ball Fighters. Next up we have is Towa and Mira. Not together, obviously, as one character, but obviously separate characters. Towa and Mira have been in a lot of stuff. They've been in Xenoverse. I believe they made an appearance in Dokkan Battle. Towa and Mira just show up and stuff. Dragon Ball Heroes, they're reoccurring villains. Yeah, Towa and Mira show up in a lot of things. So honestly, I think it'd be completely injustice for them not to show up here. I think Towa and Mira need to show up here. Also, more female representation with Towa. I think it'd be very cool to see Towa interact with like the other female characters. Towa can talk with like Android 21. I think that'd be a pretty cool cutscene. Krillin, I would love to see like she's dangerous, but she's kind of cute. Like I'd love to see like that cutscene go down. I don't know, just like seeing female representation, as well as having like these hilarious cutscenes show up. I would love to see that. I would love to see her interaction with like Android 21 and stuff like that. Plus, she's a scientist, so having her talk with like Dr. Gero and stuff like that, I would love to see some like interactions that take place during that moment. Mira would have another form. Mira would have the form that he takes in Xenoverse 2, the one where he basically kills Towa and fuses with her. So I believe that needs to be in the game. I think that would be a really good form for Mira to have. Mira would have a really cool just like cutscene where he like punches Towa and then like absorbs her body or something and transforms into like the Mira fused form. I definitely believe that needs to be in the game. I think that would be a really cool attention to detail. Next up is from Dragon Ball Heroes. I'm sorry if I don't know much about this character at all, but I see him show up a lot, so I feel like it'd be kind of cool for him to show up in the game. Cumber. I believe Cumber is a character that a lot of people like. I don't really care for him, but as far as this roster goes, these are essentially guest characters from other games. And Cumber is a character I end up hearing and seeing a lot. I believe Cumber needs to go ahead and show up in this game. That, and Cumber has the ability to turn into an ape, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe that Cumber transforming into an ape would definitely be our giant character that we would have in this situation. So I believe Cumber would be a really cool and interesting character. I don't know much about him, sadly enough, but I think he would be a good special guest character. All of the characters that I'm naming would probably be in their own special slot. It would be a slot of characters of, like, these are the characters that show up from other games that are making a guest appearance in this game right here. Budokai Tenkaichi wants to have a lot of characters. I believe these characters would be good to have in this game as far as guest. Next character, Heart. I don't know anything about Heart. I didn't watch the Dragon Ball Heroes series. I said I wouldn't. I'm not that invested in Dragon Ball Heroes. Maybe one day I'll watch it and then review it. But at this moment, I don't know anything about Dragon Ball Heroes. I don't know anything about Dragon Ball Superhero Missions or whatever it's called. I don't. The only reason I suggested Heart is because apparently his fight with Goku is like one of the greatest animated battles Dragon Ball's had in a long, long time. I've watched the fight. I think it's really good. I don't know a thing about Heart. I don't know his whole deal. But apparently the fight he has with Goku is like the bee's knees. So I think he should be in the game just off of that aspect alone. Heart seems like he's a pretty cool character. He seems like he's got a pretty cool design. He seems like he does some interesting stuff. Throw him in the game. Why not? I'm trying my best to not add too many Dragon Ball hero characters, so I excluded things like Supreme Kai of Time. I don't think she needs to be in the game. We don't want to add too many of the characters. These are guests, so we want to keep it level. We don't want too many guests. We just want a sizable number of guests to show that, hey, these are characters from other games that are making an appearance, and I felt like these were good representation characters just because I hear and see them a lot. Even though I haven't even touched Dragon Ball Heroes, I hear about Heart and Cumber so many times, I feel like they should be in the game. Speaking of which, one more character I believe should show up, Fu. The only reason, Toa and Mira, I believe that's Toa and Mira's kid. I don't know anything about Fu either, but I know he plays a very, like, pivotal role in, like, what-if stories. Because that's his whole jam, is, like, mixing up other characters in different timelines so that they can fight each other. Because Dragon Ball Heroes is basically a fanfic series. It's not, but it is. But it kind of is, but it's not. It is. It is. So I could definitely imagine Fu would be, like, the charge-in for a what-if scenario. And that's a lot of what I want to see in Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi. I want to see some what-if scenarios. I want to see some what-if stories. I want to see some characters that are meeting each other that would have never met each other under any context except the one that's being laid out. And I believe Fu is like the captain of that stuff. Fu is like the one that mixes and matches all these crazy character combinations. So I believe Fu would be a good character for it. Next off, we've got characters from Raging Blast and Raging Blast 2 by default. Vegeta and Broly, both at Super Saiyan 3. Yes, we know that Broly has his super mode now. He has his Dragon Ball Super form. So Super Saiyan 3 Broly's probably never going to be a thing in the canon, which is good. But Super Saiyan 3 Broly is something that's been iconic for a while. Not just in Raging Blast. People have made fan art of it. People have visualized it. I believe Super Saiyan 3 Broly is in a bunch of other things as well too. I say go ahead and let Super Saiyan 3 Broly in the game at this point. Why not? Just let him in. I see no harm there. Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Obviously, there is no real need to have a Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, especially given the situation. But it feels weird to have Super Saiyan 3 Broly and not have Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Out of everybody in this list I've made so far, I think if you were to exclude a character, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta would probably be the one. But I still would like him in the game just because of the sense that, hey, this is the Raging Blast era, and I kind of wish that Raging Blast would have Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta as representation. But if you only had to have the one, Super Saiyan 3, I would say Broly would probably be the one you would have the most. But Vegeta definitely has that, like, he wound up being Super Saiyan 3 in Raging Blast as well, too. So I see no reason to not put him in the game. Last but not least was a character we actually mentioned at the very beginning of this video, that being Hatchak. I believe Hatchak firmly needs to be in the game. He's a really solid character. He at this point, we know him. We know plan to eradicate the Saiyans. I think it's a good touch. I think it's a good fit to go ahead and just let him in the game. I see no problem with him not being in the game. And then this is a bonus. I didn't even write this down. Not Hero from the Dragon Ball Heroes, but I believe the one character, the male character, Sand from Ultimate Tenkaichi, I think that would be a good character to put in the game, but make his move list so customizable that you can pretty much give him almost anything. That's his gimmick. His gimmick is that he can use the other characters' moves as well, which I think that would be kind of interesting to pair him up with Android 21 and they look at each other and they're like, oh, you have the ability to copy moves too. And he's like, I learned those moves or something. I don't know. I think that'd be cool. But with that being said, that's part 2 of my wish list of characters that I want to be in the game. And that brings the total up to well above 200 at this point. But with that being said, again, which characters do you think should be in the new Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi project? It may be dubbed 4, we don't know. But as far as Budokai Tenkaichi, it takes pride in this large roster. But I still visualize that it will be a roster that has some level of reasonability. I mean, programmers can only do so much, right? So I laid out some characters I thought would be nice touches as representation, but not flooding the game with characters just because they threw a punch that one time, right? So, that being said, what characters do you hope will be in the game? I'm super excited to see more information that we may get. And next time we meet up, as far as this game, I'm going to talk about mechanics and gameplay features that I want to be put in the game. So that being said, I'll see you all later. Tyrone TG3 out. If you want to know where most of my time is spent, head on over to my Twitch channel to watch me stream games on Tuesdays through Thursdays, as well as Saturdays and Sundays. Also, be on the lookout on the PokePod, a podcast stream on my friend KG Prestige's channel, as we discuss the latest Pokemon anime episodes, as well as anime, manga, video games, and other fun topics. That's it. Go do those other things. This video's over.